Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Wishbone Football. I am Chad, and welcome into episode 1.08, the draft preview show. Coming to you on a Wednesday night, April the 22nd. Tomorrow is the first round of the 2026 NFL Draft. I wanted to put together a preview show of what I expect to happen and what tomorrow night could look like. There are a lot of rumors swirling. There are a lot of smoke signals being thrown up around the NFL currently. One, miraculously, I saw today, Skylar Bell, a wide receiver in the draft, had some knee issues. And did have an injury earlier. And magically, 24 hours before the draft is about to go off, there's a video of him running on a treadmill. And it's always that time of the year. There was an arrest for another player, which doesn't surprise me. Anything short of a Laramie Tunsil gas mask. Nothing should be shocking us that now. So, what I did for us tonight, last couple of days of putting this together, is I did essentially a mock draft that what I think is going to happen and what the needs are for each of the teams. Now, honestly, it's not perfect. My needs for how I view them are going to be different from other people or the teams themselves. This is just my sort of outside look at what I think each team needs and how we eventually get there. So, I am going to be doing the mock draft as we go so that at the end of it, I'm doing this on PFSN. I really like their website. I've been using them for a couple of years now. And just so I have something that I can kind of sort of tweet out and post on my Instagram to show what I've done. So the first thing I will say is that I expect a lot of trades with what's going on. There are 6 teams holding 2 first-round picks, and I expect a lot of movement. The one thing I will say is I only had a few trades that I ultimately did. And those were not deal breakers or life movers for anyone. It made a couple of teams a little bit better. And one team took a trade down twice that I think they should be open to. The Jets own the 2nd and the 16th from the Colts. The Giants own 5th and the 10th. The 10th coming from the Bengals in the Dexter Lawrence trade that just took place a couple of days ago. Sending him from the Giants to the Bengals. The Browns own 6 and 24 in their trade with the Jags from 2025, in which the Jags traded up to draft Travis Hunter. The Chiefs own 9 and 29 from the LA Rams for the Trent McDuffie trade this offseason, which that is a team that already traded one of their draft picks, the LA Rams, but I had gotten into that on a previous episode. I think that was episode 4 or 5. I'll confirm that and get back to you guys. The Dolphins hold 11-30 from their trade sending Jalen Waddle to the Broncos. And finally, we have the Cowboys, who hold 12-30 for their trade with the Packers for Micah Parsons. And I had found it here. It's actually episode 4, the draft look back, that I did a deep dive into the LA Rams and what they have done in the last decade in the first round specifically. And overall as well, but specifically what they have done with their first overall pick in each year. And it was actually the trade with McDuffie that got me into looking at it, and probably ultimately why I did draft episode 6 and 7 as a bit of a draft look back. The team with the most draft picks in 2026 are the Steelers with 12. Ravens, Jags, Dolphins, Patriots all have 11. Raiders have 10. Browns, Lions, Chiefs, Vikings, Jets, and Titans have 9 picks. Bengals, Cowboys, Packers, Texans, Saints, Eagles have 8 picks. Cardinals, Bills, Panthers, Bears, Broncos, Colts, Rams, Giants, and Bucks all have 7. 49ers and Commanders have 6. Falcons and Chargers have 5. And finally, the Super Bowl winning Seattle Seahawks have only 4 picks. But who cares when you win the whole damn thing? So let's run through a mock draft for the first round. And as we get into this, I'm going to let you know whose pick it is and then where they ultimately go. And like I said, when we're all said and done here, you can find the finished product of the mock draft on my Twitter and Instagram page. And I will plug those after. So, without further ado, let's get things rolling. On the clock, 101 is the Oakland Raiders. I don't think this needs to be a shock that they are selecting Fernando Mendoza. With the first overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select QB Fernando Mendoza, Indiana. I really like just saying it that way, the proper way. I feel like the commish, except a lot of people don't boo me every time I step to the podium. This is the pick, and this will get the Raiders back on track to their commitment to excellence. And trust me, Raiders fans, this will be much, much better than Jamarcus Russell. With the second pick, I have Arvell Reese going to the New York Jets. With their needs being edge, wide receiver, and guard, there is no reason not to take a top-end edge in this year's draft, getting the most value for the second overall pick. With the third pick in the 2026 draft, the Arizona Cardinals could go in a number of directions, with their needs being tackle, quarterback, and edge. There are rumors the Cardinals trade down, but I believe that they will select tackle Francis Magoa out of Miami. With the fourth pick, the Titans having a need at edge, wide receiver, and guard. They keep their pick, which some people are saying that they could be a candidate to trade down. They keep their pick and select edge David Bailey out of Texas Tech. And honestly, with the fourth pick, it's a no-brainer. I think that the Jets really will dictate the first 10 picks of this draft. And what I mean by that is we know what the Raiders are going to be doing. For the most part. It's like minus 20,000, which is an implied probability of 99.5%. So I do think that whatever the Jets do dictate what happens behind them. I don't think that the Cardinals should be taking anyone but an offensive tackle, but sometimes you get giddy. Sometimes you want that. You want Jeremiah Love to be sitting there for you to take him. So, moving on with the Giants holding the 5th overall pick. They are shocked that Jeremiah Love is still available when they are on the clock. With the Giants holding 2 first-round picks, they are able to splurge with a pretty new running back while still holding a second pick in just 5 more. So the Giants will be selecting Jeremiah Love. Moving on to the 6th pick. With the 6 picks, the Cleveland Browns select wide receiver Carnell Tate out of Ohio State. He stays home in the great state of Ohio. This is going to be considered a hot take because it's going to be a slide for Tate. But with the first 5 picks going the way they do, the Browns don't get Magoa. Now, with the 7th pick, the Washington Redskins select safety Caleb Downs out of Ohio State. With the need of wide receiver, offensive line, and safety help, this shores up the Commanders' back end. With the 8th pick, the New Orleans Saints trade the pick to the New York Giants for their new head coach to have new toys. They wanted to make a splash. The Giants trade their 10th overall pick, their 105th pick in the 4th round, and their 2027 7th round in exchange for the 8th overall pick. So, what I am going to do is I am going to see if what I had concocted in the way of the trade is going to allow me to make this trade. But I will work on that and we will continue on. With the 8th pick, the New York Giants select wide receiver Jordan Tyson, Arizona. This should not be a shock to anyone with what the Giants are doing. Yes, they need a quarterback. Yes, they still could like who they have, but quarterback should be what they're looking at long term. It might just not be this year. With the ninth pick, the Kansas City Chiefs select edge Reuben Bain Jr., Miami. I think that KC would be happy to have Bain still available at 9, given the trade of the Giants coming over them with the New Orleans Saints. With the 10th pick, the New Orleans Saints trade their pick to the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys trade pick 12, pick 112, and their 6th round pick in 2027 in exchange for pick number 10. So essentially what I mean by this is the Cowboys are coming up 2 from 12 to 10, giving New Orleans their 12th, their 112th pick, and a 6th round next year in exchange for pick number 10. And with the 10th pick, the Dallas Cowboys select linebacker Sonny Styles, Ohio State. And honestly, this shouldn't be a shock to anyone. It's Sonny Styles could very well be an excellent player, and they're gonna try like hell to probably get him. So now we are moving on to the #11th pick. With the 11th pick, the Miami Dolphins select offensive tackle Monroe Freeling out of Georgia. Miami is excited to still get their guy with the trades in front of them. And that's something I want to mention too. Their guy. Get ready to hear that. For basically, I mean, it'll start tomorrow, right into the weekend, next week with GMs and head coaches doing interviews. Their guy. It's always funny to hear GMs talk this way, because don't get me wrong, you want to feel like you won in the draft, right? And you need to be giving as much confidence to the young men that you are drafting. And so when you call them your guy, that's only going to just make them feel so incredibly wanted within the organization. So, moving on here. So, after the Dolphins select Freeling with the 11th pick, the 12th pick, the New Orleans finally get to select wide receiver Makai Lemon, USC. And this can't really be a shock, because I think the Saints are in a good position to make a trade back or two, because I don't think that they're burning things down ready to go for a Super Bowl in the next 2 years. I think that they are going to have to build it slowly over the next 3 or 4 years. But this can't be a smash and grab draft. That's not how this is going to work. So, with the 13th pick, the Los Angeles Rams select offensive tackle Spencer Fano out of Utah. This can't be a shock. I mean, this is exactly what the Rams should do to shore up the offensive line, especially with the rumors of Matt Stafford coming back for a couple more years. I will use that term loosely, but I do think that the Rams are best suited picking up an offensive lineman in this scenario. So, moving on here, with the 14th pick, the Baltimore Ravens select cornerback Mansour Delone, LSU. This is a no-brainer. They are a juggernaut when it comes to defense, and I think that they have their offense worked out for the most part, I will say. I don't think it's necessarily something that they need to do a lot of. I view the Ravens and the Bills as sort of the same team. This same tier of team. That all you're trying to do is get a couple of more pieces that is really going to set you apart, if that makes sense. And that could be a number of things, but I do think that getting a lockdown corner can go a very long way. And honestly, it speaks to exactly what the Bills did last year with respect to getting Maxwell Hairston in the first round. So far, I do have an update. I have processed both of my trades in PFSN, the Giants trade up and the Dallas trade up. So, as you guys should expect, both have been approved and accepted. And honestly, I think my next step here is to become a NFL, I'll say assistant GM. Maybe that's the way I'll put it. All right. So, 15th pick. We're almost halfway there. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers select edge Akeem Massador out of Miami. This is a pick that means a lot to me, and that's simply because I'm Canadian and he is Canadian. And this is a big step for Canadian football. And I don't mean the CFL or Canadian universities. I mean Canadians getting recruited out of Canada, seen enough to a point where Miami is bringing him in, and saw enough to bring him in. He's been an outstanding player for the Hurricanes the last couple of years, and ultimately could very well end up in as a first round draft pick going into the NFL. That's incredible. that speaks a lot to where Canadians are at least now getting looks that they might not have in years past. So the with the Jets picking Arvell Reese second overall, the Jets get tackle help that they need by selecting. There is no way I'm going to say this properly, and I tried earlier. Vega Ione from Penn State, tackle. And the Dolphins need that. Or, I'm sorry, the Jets need that so incredibly badly. Their line play was absolutely atrocious last year. And Geno Smith going back to the Jets, I know he is just a placeholder, and the Jets could very well be a team that wants to draft a quarterback, but honestly, I don't think this is the year. I think most teams understand that. Most teams are looking at next year. Most teams are looking at Arch Manning and guys that might have went back this year. Dante Moore out of Oregon went back for another year. Chambliss went back to Ole Miss for another year. There are guys that it made sense to go back, and it could ultimately just be helping their draft stock. And that's honestly why 2027 could be a big draft year. So, Jets getting the tackle help that they need. So moving on to the 17th pick. The Detroit Lions select tackle Caden Proctor out of Alabama. I have tried to stay up on all of the, not mocks that are being done all the time, but all of the whispers that are going on that everyone is tweeting about. And one that I continue to hear is that it's going to be a offensive tackle run. I'm using air quotes by somewhere where you could get 6 or 7 tackles in a row. With in the first round. And I honestly just continue to think that shows you how not deep of a first round draft this is. I don't care about the rest of the draft. Yes, there's always going to be guys that help. You're going to get someone in the second and third round who's going to help your team. But the true top end talent doesn't seem to be there in this draft. With the 18th pick, I have the Minnesota Vikings selecting tight end Kenyon Sadiq from the University of Oregon. He truly is the best tight end in this draft, and there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of debate on that, if you can believe it. It's probably the most sure position there is in this draft, but the problem is not everyone needs it. You have a couple of good tight ends, you have one, maybe two that can go in the first round, but if you need a tight end, it also sometimes means that you might need a wide receiver too. It's that old adage that we have 2 good quarterbacks, which ultimately means you don't have any good quarterbacks. Because if you have 2, you don't have any. And that's the way I look at tight ends as well. Now, don't get me wrong. George Kittle and the 49ers, they have an excellent offensive weapon in George Kittle, but they also have quality wide receivers. And now I think back to my Buffalo Bills, and the Bills have had a good tight end room for the last number of years, but have we had a good wide receiver room in the last couple of years? Yeah, Khalil Shakir is good. I like him a lot, but he is not a number one guy. We tried to go out and get our number one guy with Keon Coleman, and we saw how that worked. But maybe we'll set that aside for right now. So, getting back to this here, the 18th pick, the Vikings selected tight end. With the 19th pick, I think the Carolina Panthers will be taking safety, Dylan Thieneman from Oregon. The Panthers have done enough offensively over the last couple of years to now make it a priority to button up that defense. And honestly, I could see the Panthers being a team vying for that division, the NFC South. I really do. They do have been continuously getting better and better each year, and I think with a little bit of defensive help, I think they will get there. So, with the 20th pick, the Dallas Cowboys, now we're on to their second pick. And with the Cowboys' 20th pick, they select corner Jermod McCoy out of Tennessee. I don't really have a feeling on him. He was SEC guy, but really Tennessee wasn't. It sounds bad, but like this wasn't ever a team that I spent a lot of time looking at, if that makes sense, or watching. But honestly, that will change come this fall. So, the host of tomorrow's draft, Pittsburgh, hold the 21st pick. What do you think they want to do with it? Do you think they want to select a new quarterback? And maybe we can stop mocking the Steelers being the leftovers for Aaron Rodgers, and maybe the Steelers can get back to their prominent ways with a true teardown of that organization now that Mike Tomlin is gone. Also, speaking of Mike Tomlin, shout out to him. It has been announced that he is joining the NBC staff for Sunday Night Football, which is a little bit upsetting because ultimately I do think he is basically replacing Tony Dungy, and I like Tony Dungy, but we'll see. We will see that first week, probably at the Bills, Sunday night. The new stadium. That's my guess. Ravens at Bills in the new stadium. Sunday night, week 1. So, back to the drafting here. With the 21st pick, the Steelers select wide receiver Omar Cooper Jr., Indiana. I do think that they are going to try the Aaron Rodgers experiment one more time. I don't like it for obvious reasons, but I do think they do one more kick of the can at it to say he can get us to the promised land and be better than 500 and maybe win us a playoff game. And we know that that won't be the case, as sad as it is. The Steelers are going to do what the Steelers have done for the last 10 years, and it is mediocrity. They are going to be over 500, and they are going to make the playoffs as a wild card team and be out in the first weekend. And that's honestly just the way that it is. It's sad because now I would have expected when they announced that Mike Tomlin is leaving the team, or mutual breakup, whatever you want to call it. I don't think that you throwing up the flag to say to Aaron Rodgers, hey, come back whenever you want to, we've got a cool 15 or 20 million waiting for you, is the right move. You need to be trading away Watt and trading away anything with any sort of value on your team and truly doing a full rebuild on that team. But the worst part is it doesn't seem like they want to do that. They just want to keep kicking that can and hope that they can work their way out of it. But the worst part is they go 9-8 next year. They're not going to sniff at a quarterback even if they are selecting 18th or 17th or 18th, one of the first teams to miss the playoffs. You're not getting a sniff at a quarterback there, a quality one. And that's just the way that it goes. So, moving on with the 22nd pick. This pick is for the Los Angeles Chargers, and they select edge Mason Thomas out of Oklahoma. OU still sucks, but we'll leave that for another day. And the Chargers have always seemed to be very similar to my Buffalo Bills. They have a really good quarterback. They have tried to surround him with weapons, and it hasn't worked. And now I think it's time for them to shore up their defense. Again, with their defensive selection here. With the 23rd pick, the Philadelphia Eagles select wide receiver Casey Concepcion from Texas A&M. Now, this guy was talked about a lot. He has tried to do everything humanly possible for his draft stock to get better. But ultimately, he's still sliding. He is still going to end up as, what did I say? The 1, 2, 3, 4th wide receiver taken in the draft, possibly 5th, depending on Denzel Boston and where he ends up. Because Denzel Boston, I feel, has gotten more positive reviews than Casey Concepcion. Casey went and wrote a long piece was not a long piece with Players Tribune saying, "Hey, NFL GMs, take me. You're not going to regret it," sort of thing. And I don't know. That's cheap to me. I understand publicity is going to get you drafted higher, but we're talking about maybe a couple of picks. Maybe instead of you going from 26 to the Bills to, where did I put him here? 22nd to the Chargers. Maybe that's your publicity move. 4 picks. Don't get me wrong. That's probably a couple more $1 million in guaranteed money. However, that you're not moving the needle. They're not drafting you over Jordan Tyson. They're not drafting you over Carnell Tate or Makai Lemon. That's just the way that it goes. Like there is I believe that there is a clear tier break in the wide receivers of this first round. I am going to put Carnell Tate on his own level as a 1A. And then I am going to put Jordan Tyson and Makai Lemon as a 1B as a tier break. And then there's going to be a gap there. And that gap is probably if we go 1A, 1B, I'll now say 3A as that wide of a gap. Until Concepcion comes up, Omar Cooper comes up, and Denzel Boston. Those are probably the 6 wide receivers that we're talking about in that mix for a quarterback being drafted in the first round. So, let's get back to it here. With the 24th pick, the Cleveland Browns select offensive tackle Blake Miller out of Clemson. Another solid move for the Browns. The Browns get Carnell Tate with the 6th pick, and then ultimately their offensive tackle help with the 24th pick. And they're actually a team I would rate better than the Steelers. And I know that's going to sound crazy, but I think that the Browns have more younger key pieces and better quality than the Steelers, who seem to just be in this constant death rotation. I'll say. Don't get me wrong. They won a Super Bowl under Mike Tomlin in 2008. I forget when it was. I know it was. I don't think it was that long ago. But it's just this constant rotation that, I don't know, every time I think of the Steelers organization, I get upset. And I'm not even a Steelers fan. It's probably those goddamn towels I hate so much. Okay, so now we're up to the 25th pick. So with the 25th pick, the Chicago Bears select Kendrick Falk, edge out of Auburn. You knew that the Chicago Bears were going to be going with a defensive pick this year. Actually, just tonight on Twitter, I was going through and noticed that the Browns have released new footage of their draft from 2025 in the first round when they had selected Rome Odunze. And it's so funny, and I love that kind of footage where they're just so enthralled with what's going on that it looks like GM, head scout, and like assistant GM are all just sitting there together. I don't know who they are, and they're basically like, okay, what do you guys think? What what's Atlanta going to do? What is that? Is that what you guys think? And I get this way. I get this way watching the draft. I couldn't imagine being in that room. I don't know how they were wearing suits. My suit armpits would be absolutely just soaked. Just everything that's running through your head. You're going crazy over it. So yeah, like I said, 25th pick, Chicago Bears select Keldrick Falk, Auburn. So with the 26th pick, the Buffalo Bills trade the pick to the Las Vegas Raiders in exchange for pick 36 in the second round, 102nd in the fourth round, and the Raiders 2027 third round pick. Let me go over that again. The Buffalo Bills have traded down. Are we shocked? Are you sitting at home right now listening to this? Are you shocked if the Buffalo Bills trade down? Let me set the scene for you. The Buffalo Bills used their second round draft pick this year on the DJ Moore trade. So think about that. They are making this trade down to get into the second round, pick up a fourth round this year, and a third round next year. Not bad. Not bad. The only quarterback that is, the only wide receiver that is left to be taken that has what I think is a first round grade on him is Denzel Boston. And Denzel Boston seemed to be the fifth and sixth place out of the six of those guys. So maybe he was the worst out of the six, or the second worst out of the six. There's always room for discussion on that, but that's the way I viewed it. And maybe the Bills see that and take advantage. Because we've seen this before. We've seen this where teams have taken a quarterback, say you're not even one, say you're top three, and you're trading back in for an elite piece that you also need to couple with your young quarterback. And so for this, with the 26th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select offensive tackle Caleb Lomu out of Utah. This is a great move for them. They are getting a key piece on their offensive line. They're getting Fernando Mendoza, and they are, yes, giving up their second round pick, but maybe a key offensive line piece is not going to still be there in 10 picks from now. So moving on. With the 27th pick, the San Francisco 49ers select wide receiver Denzel Boston out of the University of Washington. Pretty easy to think about that here. With the 28th pick, the Houston Texans select defensive tackle Caden McDonald out of Ohio State. That boy is a beast, and I would not be upset if the Bills took him. But you see this. You see this with Houston Texans. Going over their draft over the last 10 years, they only draft elite defensive pieces. It's sickening, but it's true. 29th pick, the Kansas City Chiefs select offensive tackle Max Archer. I really hope I say that. Here in Acker. I think I said that correctly. Apologize to Max. I'm sorry. Please don't give me beef on Twitter if I really said it that wrong. And he's out of Arizona State. With the 30th pick, the Miami Dolphins select cornerback Chris Johnson out of San Diego State. He is a guy that I believe had a very good showing at the pro day, and so I think that was ultimately what got him bumped up. Because when you think about San Diego State, it's not an elite school. 4 draft picks anyway. No shot at San Diego State, but yeah, that's how I felt. With the 31st pick, the New England Patriots select linebacker Jacob Rodriguez out of Texas Tech. I think that the Patriots really need this pick, and I think they are sweating it after the Bills trade back. So when the Bills make the trade at 26 to come back with the Raiders, I think the Patriots start sweating a whole lot more. Thinking that is exactly what the Raiders are doing with that 26th pick. And finally, with the 32nd pick, the Super Bowl winning Seattle Seahawks select running back Jadarian Prince, Notre Dame. This should not come as a shock to anyone. Kenneth Walker leaving in free agency to go to Kansas City. This is high on their list. Is a high-end running back. It's probably edge and running back right up there as their 2 biggest needs. But I think it is ultimately Jadarian Price is who goes to Notre Dame. And that's it. This is what my outlook is on this year's first round picks. I do think I think I was moderate with the trades. I would love to see New Orleans trade back twice. I've got a buddy who's a New Orleans Saints fan, and I think that would just absolutely drive him mental. But I do think there's going to be more trades than what I had laid out here. The reason I only had the 3 trades because I wanted them to be methodical, if that made sense. Like the Raiders coming back into the first round to get their offensive tackle, or the Giants trading back up for Jordan Tyson, and the Cowboys trading up for Sonny Styles. I think that those make sense because if you're the Giants sitting at 10, so let me go back to the first trade that we did. Giants are sitting at 10. New Orleans is sitting at 8. You have New Orleans, Kansas City, and then it's your selection. And I think that you are scared about Jordan Tyson going to the Chiefs. And I think that's why Joe Shane and his staff make that trade to go up to 8. Mentally, that's how I view it. Because when you do that, I think the Chiefs, if the Chiefs have the decision, if Jordan Tyson is still there, they are taking Jordan Tyson. But with him off the board, that's where I feel like Reuben Bain goes to the Chiefs. And then because of all the movement earlier with Cardinals taking the offensive tackle, that's where I feel that Dallas sees an opportunity to trade up to get Sonny Styles, who in most mocks are having him go in the first what, 5 or 6 picks. So I think that if the Cowboys are able to get Sonny Styles at 10, that's a win. That's a huge win. And then finally the last pick the last trade we talked about with the Bills trading out. I think that makes sense, because yes, the Bills need edge, wide receiver, and safety help. But if they don't, it was Brandon Beane who said a couple of days ago in an interview, while in a media session, that they have, quote unquote, a low end number of first round grades for this draft. And so that says it all. Like, sure, they need wide receiver help. Are they taking Denzel Boston? Maybe they don't see Denzel Boston as a first round draft pick. They need linebacker help. Maybe they don't see Jacob Rodriguez out of Texas Tech as a first round selection. And that's really the game that you have to start playing with yourself, is if we're trading back, how many picks is it? 6? Bills go from 26 to give up 26, and they are getting 36. So that means that you're the 4th pick in the second round. So, and you knew what the teams behind you were doing in the rest of the first round. San Francisco, Texans, Kansas City, Dolphins, Patriots, Seattle. You knew what they were doing for the most part. So that means that if you've got your eye on a guy at with the 36th pick, and you know, even if every team who wants a quarterback drafts a quarterback and he's still there, the guy you want, when you trade back, that's absolutely a slam dunk move. Now, one thing that I did want to mention here as well is I did not take as many edges, because I tried to do this as pure as possible. I looked into what each team's needs were, and then I made myself the GM for absolutely every pick in the first round and tried to be objective in that selection. So there's so much smoke about Arvell Reese or David Bailey going to the Jets at 2. And that's when I tried to be objective and say that this is a no-brainer. Arvell Reese could very well be a home run for an edge this year. That's why I selected him. Same with the Cardinals. Cardinals might get all excited and get giddy knowing that they could take Jeremiah Love at 3. But is that the right move? And the answer is no. You do not need to be drafting a running back if you do not have a quality quarterback to be handing them the goddamn ball. Listen, Arizona, listen to me. It is an offensive tackle. It is not a sexy pick, but you need to know that. Don't be stupid with this. So, what my plan is a full review. I teased it last week that I was going to be doing it this weekend. I don't think that's going to be possible, because what I'd like to do is essentially do a full printout of each team, their picks, what they needed now, what they took, and do a full review of it. And I really hope I'm not talking about Jeremiah Love going to the Cardinals with the third goddamn pick. So, my draft logo rundown. I'm about to be posting 2017, I believe. I might have had a few days where I didn't do as many as I should, so we may be getting 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 tomorrow, but that's okay. That it'll be better for the algorithm on Twitter for me, trying to get everyone to listen to this podcast over the next 24 hours and in the run-up for the draft. So, I want to thank everyone. This was a long one, but this is one that I wanted to do. I wanted to sort of give everyone what I expected to happen, where some teams can get silly and stupid, like the Cardinals, and where some teams can get smart with the Giants trading up, or how about the Saints trading down twice in the first round. I think that would be awesome. And I know I'm definitely here for some trades and very excited for them. So, Wishbone Football. You can find me at Twitter at WishboneFB, Instagram at WishboneChad. And again, guys, I want to thank you. Thank you for giving me a listen. Thank you for giving me a follow. And thank you for your time spent with me this evening. I am Chad, and this is Wishbone Football.